Alright guys, I watched Snow White so you don't have to. Let's dive straight in and break this movie down. Now, we've been talking about this film for ages. From Rachel Zegler's controversial comments to all the political drama surrounding this so-called Disney live-action remake. And yeah, I'm putting live-action in air quotes because, honestly, can we even call it that? I'll explain why in just a second. Before we jump into the full breakdown, here's a major spoiler warning. If you're planning to watch Snow White and want to go in fresh, this video is going to be packed with spoilers. But first, let's rewind a bit and refresh our memory on everything that led up to this film's 2025 release. Of course, Rachel Zegler went wildly viral after throwing shade at the original 1937 Snow White, making it very clear that she had zero love for Disney's classic. And here's exactly what she said in that now infamous interview.
Longer 1937.
She's not going to be saved by the prince.
She's not going to be saved by the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be, and the leader that her late father told her that she could be if she was fearless, fair, brave, and true. The original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her.
Yeah.
Weird. So we didn't do that this time. I was scared of the original cartoon. I think I watched it once and then I never picked it up again. I watched it for the first time in probably 16, 17 years. The cartoon was made 85 years ago, and therefore it's extremely dated when it comes to the ideas of women being in roles of power.
Yeah, maybe a little PR training wouldn't have hurt. But then again, this is Disney we're talking about. Maybe this was their PR strategy. Maybe Rachel Zegler was sent out there to trash the 1937 classic just to hype up this brand new ultra-modern version. And you know what? She might have been joking, but she wasn't exactly wrong. Because Disney definitely sprinted full speed ahead with their vision of a feminist utopian Snow White for 2025. But of course, the Rachel Zegler saga doesn't end there. Oh no, here's a clip of her explaining why she deserves to be well paid. For standing in a princess dress for 18 hours straight.
If I'm gonna stand there 18 hours in a dress of an iconic Disney princess, I deserve to be paid for every hour that it is streamed online. If I'm gonna stand there 18 hours in a dress of an iconic Disney princess, I deserve to be paid for every hour that it is streamed online.
Okay, and there's nothing inherently wrong with what she's saying, it's just the attitude. It's not giving Disney princess. And Disney used to do this thing where if they cast somebody in a role, they took it really seriously.
Look, there's nothing inherently wrong with what Rachel Zegler said, it's just the attitude. It's not giving Disney princess. See, Disney used to take this really seriously. If they cast someone in a major role, that actor was expected to carry themselves with that classic, wholesome, charming, fairy tale-like vibe, especially while doing press and PR tours. But Rachel, she completely ditched that approach, and of course, who can forget that moment? She went online and basically dropped a giant middle finger to anyone who supported Donald Trump. Then, after the inevitable backlash, she took those posts down and issued an apology. But let's be real, we all know how she feels about nearly half the US population. Again, not giving princess. And definitely not giving ruler of a utopian society where everyone gets along when you seem to despise 50% of the people living in it. But hey, I digress. Now let's get into the story. I took a ton of notes, so I'll be referring to them. As we break this thing down scene by scene, first things first. Snow White's name? Yeah, it's not about her fair skin anymore. Which, let's be honest, would have made Rachel Zegler an obvious miscast if they had stuck to the original dialogue. Instead, she's named Snow White because she survives a snowstorm. Here's a short clip, though I'm going to be careful because I do not want to get hit with a copyright claim. Let's see if we can...
My father told me long ago I braved a bitter storm of snow.
There it is. Proof that this is real. So, Snow White survives a brutal snowstorm, and from there, things take a unique turn. Her parents, the king and queen, are rulers of a utopian communist society. No joke, and Disney doesn't even try to be subtle about it. The movie opens with childlike dialogue about how what's mine is always yours, and those who tend to the land own its bounty. Visually, you see farmers working hard while the king and queen essentially preach collective ownership. Everyone shares, everyone gets an equal cut, and resources are spread evenly. And this, not beauty, not kindness, is what makes Snow White. the fairest of them all. Her political ideology defines her fairness, not her looks. Now tragedy strikes, her mother dies. Then her father remarries an evil queen. And Snow White, who's apparently destined to be a leader, now struggles with the big question, can she truly step up? Rachel Zegler made it very clear during press tours. This isn't a love story. Snow White isn't here to be saved by a prince. She's here to become a leader. And Disney reinforces that through on-the-nose lyrics like, will she rise or bow? Her head? Will she lead or just be led? Is she the girl she always said she'd be, someone no one needs to save? Then, of course, the king dies. The evil queen takes over. And here's where things get real interesting. The queen invents an enemy to the south of their kingdom. Yeah, she convinces everyone there's an imaginary villain beyond the southern border. Sound familiar? This definitely feels like a wink-wink, nudge-nudge political reference. Cough, Trump, cough. And what does she do next? She turns farmers into soldiers, steals all the land's resources, and hoards them for herself. Basically, she's running communism as it actually works while Snow White dreams of some utopian, this time it'll be different version. Now, let's talk love interest. Forget Prince Charming, because according to Zegler, he was just a stalker in the 1937 version. Instead, in 2025, Snow White, we meet a revolutionary bandit, a young white guy who's literally stealing potatoes. From the castle kitchen, Snow White catches him in the act and is like, stealing is bad, right? And he's like, yeah, well, times are tough. Gotta do what I gotta do. Basically, his whole thing is, I steal because the queen is hoarding resources. So Snow White is like, okay, I kind of get that. Then he gets arrested. The queen orders his clothes and shoes stripped off and has him tied outside in a snowstorm to freeze to death. Brutal. Snow White, of course, saves him, but not because she loves him. No. A feminist hero can't fall. For a man that fast. Anyway, the magic mirror is asked again. Who's the fairest of them all? And the mirror's like, not you, girl. It's still Snow White. So now, the queen is done. She puts a hit out on Snow White, sends a huntsman to take her out while she's picking apples. And that's where we'll pick up next. So, the huntsman tracks Snow White down, but, shocker, he can't bring himself to kill her. Instead, he's like, listen, you need to get out of here. The queen put a hit out on you. And just before she runs off, he drops a bombshell. By the way, she lied about your father. Snow White is like, wait, what? And takes off into the woods. Now, we get to the classic 7 dwarves scene. Except, nope, they're not real actors. Instead, we get 7 CGI monstrosities that look like they escaped from the Polar Express. Rachel Zegler? Yeah, she was probably acting against tennis balls on sticks the whole time. And in classic Snow. White fashion, she teaches the dwarves to clean their house and be tidy, but she can't shake what the huntsman said. She lied about my father. What does that mean? And she knows there's a group of bandit revolutionaries in the woods. So, what does she do? She goes looking for them. And guess who she finds? Her love interest. Now remember, this isn't Prince Charming. He's just a bandit revolutionary who steals potatoes and fights against the queen. And how does he sweep her off her feet? He belittles her? Yep, he literally demeans her by singing a whole song about how privileged she is. His message? You don't know what the real world is like. You grew up in a castle. Meanwhile, I've been out here struggling, fighting against oppression. You're just a princess with princess problems. And Snow White? She loves it. Ooh, okay. I love when a man belittles me. And just like that, romance sparks. In the 2025 film Snow White, the name given to Snow White is not because of her fairness, but due to her survival of a snowstorm. The film highlights communist sensibilities, where Snow White and her parents are part of a utopian society that shares everything, ensuring equality for all. Snow White is referred to as the fairest of them all, but this isn't about her beauty. It's about her fairness and ideas of sharing resources.